Welcome to the A.Little.Mental podcast, the place where you can find credible information, resources, and community to help you reach wellness a little mental at a time. I'm your host and founder, Morgan Reed, and I'm so glad you're here. Let's get into it. Hi folks, I am so glad you're here. So today we're going to be talking about one of the most popular questions I get when I talk to people about mental health, which is why you should go to therapy. When people ask me this question, I like to answer it by comparing it to why you go to your doctor or your general practitioner. And there's three popular reasons why you would go to either. So you would go to your doctor if something doesn't feel right. You're not sure what it is, but something doesn't feel right. You would go to your doctor if something happened to you. So whether you broke your leg or you have a cold, something like that, and preventative. So you go for like your annual checkup just to make sure everything's good, your vitals are good, your blood pressure's good, all those things. So it's very, very similar to therapy. And so we're going to dive into those three aspects today. So the first aspect, if something doesn't feel right? So again, when we're talking about therapy, we're talking about psychological symptoms. So that could be things like you're feeling a higher level of stress, you're feeling a higher level of anxiety. And again, I'm noting these levels of like distinctly higher or lower. So you feel lower than usual. You don't feel as happy as you usually do. You feel more tired. So if you are having these variations and levels of these feelings that you typically may have, that may be something worth going to a therapist to figure out. Another reason for that may be you might recognize that there are some maladaptive patterns or behaviors that you recognize in your life that you're not really quite sure how to capture. So again, it could be something like toxic relationships. So you keep kind of getting into the same sort of relationships with the same guy or the same girl, the same person. Or you recognize that there may be generational traumas or things and characteristics that may be throughout your family that you may want to disrupt. So there comes a point in time when you're like, is it me? Am I the drama? Is it my personality? Or is this a bigger symptom of something that should be looked at more closely? And the best way to kind of figure that out is how it impacts your functionality through everyday life. And again, a therapist can help you figure that out. So for example, I've had a lot of friends who for years thought that they were introverts because they felt anxiety around people, they felt stress in situations with a lot of different types of people, but they also liked being in those situations. So it was a very stressful thing to try to parse out. And the more we talked about it and started recognizing their symptoms, we realized you're not an introvert, you're socially anxious. You have social anxiety. You're actually an extrovert. You like being around, that's why you like being around people. But you recognize that you get these triggering negative thoughts, the self-talk, you find yourself high stress when you're in these situations, which again is manageable and a therapist can help you figure out. But there's a difference between, again, your personality traits and something that's a bit more diagnosable. So those are a few different versions of what it means when I say like something doesn't feel right. You're not quite sure what it is. You're not quite sure why you're feeling it, but you want to try to figure it out. So that's a reason you can go to a therapist. Another reason you can go to therapy is because you know for a fact something happened to you. So whether that was something maybe more negative, like a trauma, or if it was something that was just a life transition, like if you became a mom or if you recently graduated from college. So again, taking college, for example, if you recently graduated from college, there's a lot of different things that you were dealing with and trying to process on top of, this place that you've been at for the last 4 years. You're trying to figure out, okay, who am I now in this much bigger world? I'm not on campus anymore. I have to either live on my own or move back with my parents. I have to figure out how to feed myself, how to take care of myself. There's so many more bills now. There's a lot of different things that can happen in that life transition that you might need help with processing. And your friends are also going through the same thing and may not always have the best ear to listen to you or to help you process what you're going through, to help you think further along as you're going through this developmental stage. Similarly, when it comes to a life event or a traumatic event, a therapist is someone who can help you process the event so that way you can move forward in life. Again, things like that may affect your functionality. So for example, if you got into a car accident, right? And now, even though maybe it was just a fender bender, this has actually happened to me. I've been in a few different fender benders. And again, they weren't crazy big car accidents, but they affected my ability to get in a car, to drive in a car. I would feel physical symptoms from being in certain cars, in certain positions on the road. Going to a therapist can help you walk that through, kind of bring that from your subconscious, bring it more to your consciousness, and help you be able to healthily process it so that way it doesn't affect your functionality as much. Okay, so we went through something doesn't feel right, right? So for reasons to go to a therapist, something doesn't feel right, something specifically happened to you. And the last one I want to talk about is preventative. So again, you go to a regular doctor just to get a checkup, just to make sure everything's working the way that it should be. You can go to a therapist for the same thing when it comes to your psychological state, right? So if you want to raise your self-awareness, if you want to make sure everything's good, you're not missing anything, there's nothing in your subconscious you need to worry about, it's a great reason to go to a therapist. Another way to think about that is if you recognize that you will be going through a life transition. So maybe you're going to be getting married soon, or maybe you're evaluating whether or not you want to have children. Thinking about these developmental stage things, if you're in your 20s, your 30s, and you're shifting from one stage in life to another, or you at least anticipate that, going to a therapist is a great place to explore all of that and have a protected space to do that. So oftentimes when someone asks me, should I go to therapy? And we have that conversation, the thing that follows is, do I have to be in therapy forever? Is this something that I just do now? And the short answer is no. You don't have to be in therapy forever. It really depends on you. And it is a completely consensual situation. So outside of court appointed therapy, which is a thing, you decide how long you want to go to therapy or not. You decide whether or not you want to stop. I would encourage you to talk about it with your therapist. Your therapist is, again, there to help you figure out and explore that as a process in itself. So one of the things that it can help you parse out is, what does growth and success look like in this framework, right? So again, let's take, for example, if you went into a car accident, right? You had a car accident, and when you first got into therapy, you couldn't step foot in a car, or you couldn't drive a car. And now, maybe a couple weeks later, a couple months later, maybe a couple years later, you recognize, I can get into a car now without being anxious. I can drive my car now by myself without anybody being there. I can be in traffic and not feel like I'm gonna crawl out of my skin. That could be a successful point for you to feel like, okay, I don't think I necessarily need to be in therapy anymore. Another reason why you might see growth and success differently may be, hey, I'm going through this life transition. I'm going through my 20s. And my 20s are a very tumultuous time. So you may be with the same therapist for years because there are different things that come up that you may want to continue to process with the same person who knows you, who knows how you've developed, who's, again, known you for years. You don't have to explain anything. You don't have to describe why your mom acts like that. You don't have to keep talking about your best friend. They know who these people are. They know who the characters are, and they can help you move forward in your process. So that's a lot to think about, a lot to consider, threw a lot at you. But again, going through why you should go to therapy, it's, again, if something doesn't feel right, if you know something happened to you and you want to work on processing it, and if you just want to explore yourself more, if you want to know yourself better, if you want to raise your awareness and get ahead of things, those are all really great reasons to go to therapy. And again, even if you just don't know, you don't know why you want to go to therapy, you want to try it out, you can test it out, you're completely allowed to do that too. So if you're looking for more information about therapy, if you're looking to understand, okay, what kind of questions do I ask a therapist, things like that, stay tuned and look for our next episodes here. You can also go to our website, A.Little.Mental.org, or you can visit us on our Instagram at A.Little.Mental. I'll see you next week. Thanks for getting a little mental with me today. If you would like to find more resources, visit A.Little.Mental.org, and remember, be kind to yourself today.